Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? All right, we're gonna talk about a few things today, at least two. We want to talk about just like the general umbrella of climate change and whatever stuff happens surrounding that, just having a conversation about it, how we feel about it. And then hopefully we can maybe pivot that into like the desensitization that we get from all of the various types of information from like natural disasters that we see that are very prevalent right now. When you think about there's a recent flood in Libya. There was the fires in Maui. There was a hurricane. I know it didn't kill a whole bunch of people, but and then there was an earthquake in Morocco, and just kind of like and so there's that kind of stuff along with all of the political stuff and like what are the things that kind of make us more emotional. But we want to start off on the climate change umbrella and how we might kind of like think about talking about it, how the political parties talk about it. um so yeah, let's get into it. What do you think?
So I was listening to what was his name again? Brett?
Brett Weinstein.
Yeah, Brett Weinstein today, just in one of his interviews, and he made me. I always appreciate listening to him because he has liberal ideas um, that don't hit me in a toxic way. Because he's honestly he's breaking things down. There's not he doesn't secretly hate me. Um, and with the idea of climate change, and or he doesn't like that every time environmentalism is brought up it's automatically connected to climate change. And that's what his least favorite thing about conservatism in general is that anytime that happens you just roll your eye. And and he even says with good reason that there's something not quite right there, because they feed this story that's like, oh, the world's going to end in like whatever 10 years, and then it keeps on never happening, right? There is damage that we're doing to the planet that is not just going to change the climate, and not it's more just the idea of being good stewards and trying to clean up and try to, because we're doing irreparable damage. And so that's his deal, that's his problem with it. And it's sure, it's good to care about your surroundings, and we should be good stewards of the earth.
Yeah,
uh,
and I think, whenever I hear anybody talk about climate change, it doesn't even matter who it is, like whoever brings it up, like party wise, I suppose. And it could even just be individuals, because whenever it's almost like a buzzword. Um, it's like, oh, I really care about climate change. I want this to happen. I want that to happen. But it's always talked about in more broad senses, and it doesn't really address any realistic kinds of changes and the consequences that you would have to go through if you wanted to make these bigger, crazier changes. Like in the general political sphere, um, I don't know. When I think about, I know that like the Republicans kind of weaponize um, the term climate change to like, oh, you don't want us to fly planes anymore. You want us to build a something along the lines of like build a train uh to Hawaii or something like that. Like they're just these silly kinds of things. Or like, yeah, we want to move everything to electric. Oh, you want to move everything into over to electric. Well, what powers your stuff? And I mean, there's legitimacy behind some of these like pushbacks, but
there's a real underlying um consideration
yeah.
that we should be having. But I think there's a difference between conservatives like me and activists for the environment. There's a
Hmm.
difference in that I think that humans deserve prosperity, and that the planet isn't worth more than humans. I do want to be as good as we can be, and I don't think that we should go back into the ice age for our like stop all production, wear more blankets in the winter and try to shut. I don't think any of that is the solution at all. I think
Yeah,
the solution um be is to finish this evolutionary cycle that we're on right now of I think fossil fuels are going to be a thing of the past just because of
the
uh,
resource.
well,
It has to become a thing of the past
I guess we're not
to
I don't think we're
some degree, energy wise, I guess, right?
what I mean is I think that the idea of electricity being such a like electricity is how we turn our everything into electricity w- through a turbine, no matter how we get it, right? We use turbines to turn oil, coal, burning wood, whatever it is. We use it to turn turbines to generate electricity. It makes sense that we're going to just why not just generate electricity? And it seems like eventually we're going to get to a state where yes, we are just able to collect energy from the sun and charge batteries and have the right amount of battery storage and it makes sense to me that that is an inevitable part and that we'd have these other fossil fuels and things for when we need to be mobile when we need to go if we're doing rockets to go out of or planes or things like that and maybe they can eventually do planes too. To me, I think it happens and forcing it to happen um faster is not going to really change it's not going to change the angle of it that much. I think all it's going to do is make more human suffering along the path. I
Yeah.
think that we're working in that direction.
Well, I think it would if what we did, I think that the way for us to actually make long-term changes, you can't necessarily rush it. If you were to cut back on a whole bunch of on all of this stuff, you would effectively slow society down, um, which would stretch out the technology that would be required to, in order to get past that hump, right? So if we want to, as far as I can tell, we should be going, head first um, into growing society and growing human prosperity, because in turn from that, we end up with better technologies, and those better technologies make
Yeah.
the technologies that we don't that pollute, I guess, um, more and more irrelevant. And so, I mean, you can see that there's with the Teslas and with I mean, even solar panels. 15 years ago, solar panels were like super weak. They were largely useless. It was like, hey, I can barely power my house with these. And now they're becoming more and more and more efficient. And I think that and in order for those things to become technologically advanced to these points, you have to have consumption of oil. You have to have these kinds of things, and that stuff's going to pollute. But the further your society advances, the faster you or the I guess basically, yeah, the faster you're going to be able to advance the technologies. So
Yeah. So I mean, it's good for us to care, and it's good to bring attention, but it's another thing to do things like force us to double our energy costs, which has happened over the last several years. Right, we're all paying $7 a gallon or whatever, depending where you're at
right,
for our. It's slowed our economy down. So like Tesla, I'm a big Tesla and Elon fan, even though I'm a conservative guy. I'm not doing it personally for the purposes of saving the planet, but I just believe the technology is just better. It just needs more iteration, more
yep,
it because you the costs come down with. how just efficiencies over time. You just get better and better and better, better and better doing things. And there's a curve. I was trying to look up the definition of it, but there's the name of it. There's an actual curve, an actual calculation that you can get for like costs and scale. And every time you double the number of things you make it, like the costs come down a certain amount, um, percentage over time. And that's the case with solar panels. The case with most everything, unless you have a finite supply. Um, so I just see that as right now we're at the point where like Teslas are comparable to if you're going to get a new car, like a Camry, you could just about get a Model 3 for just about the same price. It's a little bit more expensive for Tesla, but I guess with the tax incentives that are there, which I wish weren't there, but I'm benefiting because I'm a stockholder in Tesla. But
Mhm.
there's a 7,500 tax credit you can get on your car. So with that, right now, it's cheaper to get a Tesla Model 3 than it is get a Camry. So I mean, it's coming down, and that's come down like it's come down $15,000 in a couple years, and it'll be down in the $30,000 range very soon. And they're making other ones. They're gonna start out around the $20,000 to $25,000 range. That'll be out in a couple years from now.
Yeah,
They'll just get better and better with it.
there's a lot of different things that can be done to help climate. I whenever I have these kinds of conversations, and you know, a lot of the time when it comes from people who are on the left, they're basically asking you to be in support of making everyone's life more difficult.
Right.
Um, I mean, if there's people who are like, oh yeah, you breathing and you farting and you kind of existing, and babies
Eating
are a
meat,
problem,
you know.
eating meat, like all this stuff, and in order to deal with your existence, you have to pay like a carbon tax because of the carbon that you put
Right.
that you output. Now, I don't know that there's actually like a carbon tax that has been put in effect anywhere in the world,
Yeah,
but there's
there's with the cafe standards with automobiles, for instance. It's uh, I don't remember the exact details, but in effect, basically, if you don't qualify, you pay taxes if you don't keep within certain standards, mile per gallon standards.
that none of that stuff even makes any sense to me.
Eh,
It's like, why are you taxing me for me participating in a product that you're selling me, like, and I have to pay extra for
No,
this.
they charge the manufacturers.
Oh,
So
and
like
that goes
so
and that gets
and
passed
that
down
that
onto
that gets
us.
passed down into, yes, it does, through the cost of the vehicles.
So
Yes.
now it's not like, hey, just for you existing, or it's not just for you existing, it's like it just gets, it's like a hidden tax basically on the person. um that kind of stuff I think is really
I wish there was a
is
line item on everything. Line item
I know,
on your
right?
everything. You can say this is from this is from this, so like you can tell where they came from, and you could almost even I would love it if there was almost like a hyperlink on everything where you can click on, like you have your electronic receipts and it says where the tax, all the tax, where the sources are from, and even where the bill, where the what year the bill was passed, under which, legislature, or under which governor. I wish infinite amount, so people, anyone that wanted to dig easily enough, they could, in your receipt, your electronic receipts, you can just find out where this tax came from. Where does this come from? Where does this come from? People need to know
Yeah,
more.
itemize that shit.
Yeah,
You know.
when you sit there and you have people um charging you know environmental taxes at a restaurant or whatever they want to charge. Like sometimes they have taxes that are put into place by the legislature, and sometimes the restaurants do it themselves because they want to put special taxes in for whatever. It's usually some social cause.
Yeah.
Um, I can't remember an example. This came off the top of my head, so I don't remember. There is an example that was in the news like 6 months to a year ago, where there was a restaurant um that had a tax on there that for some sort of social cause. I don't remember.
Oh, I
I'm
think
not
I know
making
what
that
you're
up.
talking about. I know what you're
I just
talking
don't remember what
about.
it
Yeah.
was.
It was for I think it was a coffee shop or something like that.
Maybe.
Um I do know that there was a feminist, um coffee shop that had men. If men bought the coffee, it would be more expensive.
Oh, that's right.
Do you
Yes.
remember
Well,
that one?
yeah. Well, they do it also with at if you go to like a Chinese restaurant or more authentic restaurants. A lot of times they have a separate menu for people to read the language. So if you read it in Chinese, the pricing would be different than if you get the Americanized
Really?
menu. Yeah, because and so you get better prices if you can read in Chinese, or just because it's more of I don't know why it is, but they just do. That's the tactic everywhere. That's advertising.
Yeah,
That's kind of a different point.
that's kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, okay. So I guess the other topic, if we're largely done with the other one, um, the other topic is how all of these kind of like world stories and not necessarily local. Well, I mean, I guess all the stories, right? And
Yeah.
how when we hear about them, how it is that we react to them. Um,
I
and
almost don't
there's
react at all anymore because it's all noise, unfortunately. And I feel bad about it. I feel worse about it.
well, there's
Feel worse
stuff that
about
you
what it says
feel
about
emotional
me
too.
rather than when I see a story, oh, another 1,000 people dead. I'm like, can you pass the salt? It's like I just it doesn't it just it happens so often. You see it so often. It's kind of like when you
But a
see sign at every
political,
doors.
but a political story might get you more going a little
I
more,
know. I know.
right?
That's crazy,
And
right?
I guess the like what's the thing in that? It's kind of like, well, is there a personal investment? Like you can feel kind of like, oh, that sucks, but it kind of was like an accident. It was it was just a big tragedy. Nobody could do anything about it. Oh, this fire broke out, or here was an earthquake, and here's a flood, and it's like, man, it's almost like, man, that really sucks.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I think
But
it's
that's where it kind of
relevant.
largely
I
ends
think
for you.
because we're flooded with so many different things that we have to just cut everything out except for irrelevance. Like relevance to me, exactly, right? Like
Hmm.
how relevant to me is it? Um, if it becomes a political issue because like some flooding happens and then some pundits react in certain ways and like there's a poor response by the local government and then there's a political thing, then it becomes more relevant. You start to care more about it. Like in Hawaii, like when I saw it happen, it sucked, and I wish I would have had more official response to it, even though it ended up being really bad. But the real tragedy was that it was for a long time it was just locals helping locals. And so when it came to the part where
Right.
like the mayor wouldn't even show up for several days at least, and some like the governor like 2 weeks response. I can't remember who is what, but
The
basically
seven
it was just
hundred
a
dollars
lax.
per person,
Yeah,
like
just
all
like
of
so
these little
that's the part
things.
that makes it interesting, even though the human tragedy is horrible, but
Yeah.
it's just that like people die every day. Cats die every day. Dogs die every day. I can't cry all the time. You can't. You could get to a level of acceptance of like bad stuff happens, and you have to be numb to it in general until it is relevant enough that you can pay attention to it, and then you can try to dial in. But like for the most part, you told me about some flood or something today, and I'm just like, okay. I mean, like, we want to talk to this really?
So it
Sure.
maybe kind of part of what it is it's more about the reaction to a tragedy that kind of matters more than necessary, like emotionally, more so than the actual tragedy itself and like the consequences of the tragedy, because I think a lot of people kind of they they internalize things for, like, if this were to happen to me, like if I was just in a flood and all of this stuff happened, then it's kind of like, okay, and I died, it's like, well, nobody could really do anything about me. But I kind of almost think of it like this. Maybe like part of the reason why families and friends host funerals, and we don't talk down to our elders, and we don't, and like there's certain areas of society where it doesn't really seem necessarily all that necessary because it's not really relevant to us, but it's like what I would like to have while I'm alive. Like I would like to have, I would not want my body to be desecrated, right? Like that seems pretty disrespectful, right? Now, if I'm dead, it's not really going to matter, whatever it is that happens to my body, but I don't
I
like
think
the
it's I think it's
idea.
funny. For me, I think it's funny. I don't care what people do
Well,
when I'm
if
dead.
like people
They can
don't,
put a nose on me and like
well, I mean,
and like
okay, I mean, imagine if you got hit by a car
yeah.
and you're just laying on the side of the road and nobody ever does anything with
Okay.
you,
Yes.
right?
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Right? And so it's like it's not the tragedy is that you got hit by a car, but the bad thing is that nobody did or cared or did anything with you,
Yeah.
right? They just you were so insignificant is that the way that that the messaging kind of translates to people who are living. You are so insignificant that you're not even worth the trouble to do anything about. You're not even worth thinking about. There's no reason to
Yeah.
hold a funeral. And so I think that people are upset about the idea of being tossed away and thrown into irrelevancy, especially as you get older. And like, so we as a society have to um think about these kinds of things and behave in certain kinds of ways in order to honor other people because we want to be honored should something happen to us. Now, if there's a natural disaster, something like that, it's kind of like, okay, we can feel sad about that, but we're still expecting people to be mourned. We're still expecting people to be buried or cremated or whatever. Um, we don't just leave them there, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff. But then I guess in these other situations where it's like, okay, here's the people who are surviving. Well, if I survived something like this and this happened to my life, I would be, and it didn't, but I would be really upset if, if these people were so irresponsible that they made the problem that was even worse. And then the support that I got was really low. And it's like, I don't want that kind of thing to happen to me. So then we can get upset. Like it gives us a reason to be upset for what is happening that's outside of the initial tragedy.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. It, it's kind of a necessity that we develop these strategies for taking in the world because there is more and more to know about than you can ever know. So, and we get news and things shoved at us. Everyone's trying to get our attention. Everything's trying to get our attention. You have to zone in. You have to just zone in on the things that are relevant. You need to decide. That's why when you look at a door littered with 15,000 signs, I mean, you don't even see it anymore. You see no. You don't read signs. They've been some signs are there for 10 years. There's signs of people looking for roommates for 8 years ago on a door on a convenience store that was opening today.
Yeah.
I looked because I was looking on purpose for that with that thing in mind. Because I was telling, well, actually, I was doing it because I had an agenda actually. Because they also still had a mask sign on there, even though no, I mean, they all had masks. Hey, yeah, it's amazing, and that's why I said, it's amazing how we have all these, uh, how signs are so invisible. They stay up forever. We have different things. And I mentioned the roommate thing. Yeah, some look at roommate, and you still have the COVID sign up. So I was doing it because of the COVID thing,
Yeah.
because I want them to take that fucking sign off because I hate that so much. But it's
Well, it was interesting, for a little while after all the pandemic and stuff. Um, you know how you'd go into grocery stores and you'd have, when you get up to the cashier, there's the plastic thing that's kind of
yes,
up there,
the
and
nasty
it was
plastic.
such a, I mean, it's such a silly thing. Like I get where they're coming from, but like it's still super silly.
You can restrict airflow, and it does something.
I mean the lengths that a
If
lot
you
of
have
places
people in
went.
front of you that are spitting at you, talking, right?
Yeah.
And I guess you could keep that moisture, keep that away from you from not getting sick. And if
I
that's your concern,
and
that's your
none of
concern.
it's gonna matter anyways. Like
Yeah.
in a grocery
They're gonna be,
store,
but they're living in there. They're living their convenience store. They're living where it's in the air though. They're not escaping it. Their mask is not going
right?
to protect them. The
They're
mask
not. Yeah,
stops the person that is sick from spewing it out so far, and it kind of keeps it more contained. But you're not protecting yourself very long
it's
with that thing up front.
yeah, it's pretty silly. And then what I found was interesting and even more silly is like this thing. This is like a year or so. This is like 2022. Um, and maybe I think probably even some places in 2023 still they have those things up still, and they're like yellow. They look
Yeah,
like crap. Like
they're the ones that
nobody's
got printed.
cleaning
Yeah,
them, and it's like, something I always thought about. I said this like super early on. I was like, all this mask stuff, all these barriers, all of this like caution and protection
they're an
that we're doing.
ecological nightmare.
It well, not only that, it's
In
completely
every pond and
pointless.
body of water you go to, masks floating all around the edge. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and the thing is like, okay, so I always thought about like grocery store, like, okay, where are places that people could get the most infected? Like where is the likely place? Well, I feel like grocery stores are a likely place because people are constantly picking up items. They're picking things up and they're putting them back. And then not only that, the at the register, right?
Yeah, get
You
funneled
take
into
your
one area. Yeah,
it all gets funneled onto this conveyor belt.
yeah,
All of the items that you just touched, the cashier is touching, and then that goes into to the bagger's hands. The bagger then
yeah.
puts it into your cart. You go and then you pick up all that stuff and then you start cooking your food and you're probably touching your face who knows how many times within. And then the same thing happens to the next person and the next person and the next
Yeah.
person and the next person. And it's like, I think that what a lot of this stuff is, and maybe this kind of goes to the kind of mindset with like what I was talking about, if you were dead on the side of the road and nobody cared, is just it's the thought behind it, right? It's just like, hey, do I want people, I want to know. I think that this is really what it is. Even though it doesn't do anything, even though the mask doesn't do anything, even though these barriers don't really do anything, I
We're
want to
all
know.
together. We're all into this together. Is
Right.
that what it's about?
I want to know that you are thinking about this. That's what I want to know. I want to know that you care about this because this is something that I care about.
Hmm.
Right. So maybe that's probably, I bet you, I'll bet when push comes to shove, that's what a lot of the madness that occurred in during COVID was. I think
So
that that's what
I
it was, all
definitely,
messaging and how
I
I feel. It was
definitely,
emotional.
everyone had their own cycle. Some people just stop. I mean, like some people didn't evolve past a certain stage, but like I started off not concerned myself, but trying to just do the nice thing, right? But as it became more and more ridiculous, obviously, with like some of the rhetoric, mask on, mask off, or didn't they do it? Did help, or they didn't help. But like your protects me, my mask protects you, and like all these different social strategies they're using, and how the people were wearing them inside their cars and all sorts of stuff. As it became more and more crazy, I became more and more
Well, the more
like
that they came at you
what
negatively,
you guys are.
right?
Yeah, yes, and then they come, then they treat you like you're the idiot, like you're the one trying to poison the planet. It's like, no, I'm fine. Like I'm in a truck and I deliver stuff mostly not around people during that time, honestly, because everyone was staying home and I was just delivering to the business. I would use a code to get in the back door, deliver in the break room, and leave. But like they're not usually in there. But if someone does come in there, hey, you need to wear a mask, I can just leave them right here outside the door, no problem. But like
Yeah.
I'm going to take 3 steps in there and just drop these off. Or you could just pick them up out here. That's fine. You can bring them in yourself, your own damn self. I started to get more and more things like that just it started to piss me off. Whereas like,
Yeah.
or like I was delivering out to a Connex out in the middle of a construction site, and a Connex that is just a bunch like power tools and whatever else, and the workers are all out doing their thing, but they have their water cooler in there. And I just got on my truck and I delivered things in there, and a guy from honked from across the way. Hey, you need to put your mask on. I'm like, because I'm on site and I need a proper PPE or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
screw off with that. I'm making my delivery here. I'm just going to drop off these 4 bottles and I'm going to get out of here. Quit me with your stupid complaining. There's so much. So it got more and more of that stuff stack up. So now I'm a total asshole with it. Like, now I'm
Well,
like,
that's
you
what
can
happens, right?
fuck off.
That's
I
what
am,
happens. Is like when you get treated in those kinds of ways and it gets forced on you and you get told that you're a bad person in effect, um you kind of become rebellious and you're like, I don't want to, you know what, I don't want to conform to you because you're an asshole. I don't want to
right.
do what you want, and I don't want to make you feel comfortable because you're not even trying to make me like you don't care about like, and I guess in a sense it's that too.
Right. I
You
say they
don't
don't
care
care about
about
my,
me. You
right.
don't care about my feelings. So why should I care about yours?
Yeah. I say I was 0% concerned. I got sick at the very beginning, and I got sick like the following Christmas, or I think it was the following Christmas. Um, and I didn't go to my actual Christmas that year because I was like, you know what, I'm actually sick. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
go.
it
But
makes sense. Yeah.
otherwise, I mean, I was like, I decided to say I'm going to get sick, and even if masks would help me not get sick as often, I don't care. I will take that. I will get sick more often. I don't want to wear it. I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I just don't want to. I'm going to try to stay away from people. I don't want to freak them out, but leave me alone. I'm not going to wear a mask.
Yeah, there's there's a certain I don't know I'll just say that it's like a personality type, and I think that there's a pretty good portion of Americans that have it. Of it's a rebellious there's like a rebellious nature where if you try to tell me what to do, then I'm gonna say no and I'm going to oppose it. Um, that was one of the big things that I was talking about a lot during COVID was like, look, what people need to not do is try to tell people what they must do and try to enforce a lot of these things. Um, if when I think about it now, it's almost like, look, if you can sit there and be okay and allows and you can just completely shut up while somebody goes into a store and they fill up a bag and walk out and you see it all happen and you don't say a word, you know, I feel like you can probably shut the hell up if somebody's
Yeah,
not wearing a mask, right?
yeah,
Like I think that, and it's kind of like priorities, right? Where people's heads are at and what they're willing to maybe it's even just like an opportunity for them to vent. Hey, you know what, you don't have this. I remember I was in the grocery store and this was like during there was a period of time where it was like, okay, the vaccines are out, a bunch of people have them, the numbers are low, we don't have to do masking anymore, it's not mandated masking
oh,
anymore.
there's that one, there's like a 2 week or
It was,
three
yeah, it
week
was like
period
a
of time.
2 or 3 week period of time where they were
I
like,
went
okay,
to a
we don't.
dance in that period of time. It was actually a great night, but then they got scared and they stopped them. They stopped them. They said vaccination and mask required for all further, and then no
Oh,
one else came.
well, that sucks. But so I was like in the grocery store and I'm walking around and I'm kind of noticing that there are not everybody is wearing a mask, but there are more people than had been the last few
Yeah.
like week or so. And um I'm kind of a little bit in a rush, so I'm moving a little quickly because I'm trying to find this item. Um and this older woman kind of comes out with her cart and I almost bump into it and I kind of like do a little spin maneuver on her. Um and she's like and I'm like in my head I'm preparing to apologize. So I'm already like oh sorry, like as I'm in the process, and she says you have to wear a mask, and I was like, yeah, sorry. And then she's like, and then I process it like you have to wear a mask, and I was just like, okay, you're good. And then I just like, and then I just go on about my way. But she kind of has like this stink eye
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that she's kind of given me, and she's got her hand over her mask, and which is not what you should be doing. You should not be touching your
So
mask. And it's like I was just like, like some of these people, man, I
I was
mind your
quickly,
business. Leave me alone.
um, I didn't ever wear a mask walking in a Safeway ever, and so maybe I'm horrible for that. But what I did try to do is I try to go. Um, I usually try to go like 10 o'clock at night on a Thursday type of thing.
Mm,
I was like, you know what? I'm not doing that. But I will do is I'll go lowest traffic time I can figure out. I just walk in and they try to have you wear a mask. Like, no thanks. As I just go on. Well, everybody had this conversation 500 times at some point. So they didn't even say anything to me anymore at a certain point. Like it wasn't just like it only took like a 2-3 week period of time where people would even try to do that, at least in our area,
mm-hmm.
because it's not just me. There's probably been argument after argument after argument, and the store is like, "Hey, we don't want to piss off customers. Just whatever. Ask them where. If they don't, they don't. You know." So
Yeah.
I think that's what was happening because I would just go in and wouldn't do anything. And in fact, I'd be talking like it'd walk into a store and then I see someone like, "Hey, a person! I see a person."
Yeah.
With someone else that also wasn't wearing a mask, and then
Yeah.
it's almost like a high five.
Yeah. Air
Hey,
five.
see a person in here.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'd give him a high five. Just
Yeah, I know, right?
I know.
I'm just
I never switched. I never switched to the.
to the elbow.
Oh yeah, the
It was the
elbow.
elbow.
Ah!
What's up?
When people try to give me an elbow, I'm like, uh, I'm like,
It's like
I
elbow.
would
Yeah,
always try
sure,
if I was
dog.
gonna shake a
Like,
hand, I would
okay.
bring an elbow. I'm like, I just think whatever.
Dude, elbows are for when you have two sodas in your hand. Like if you can't do
Yeah.
if you
Oh
yeah,
yeah. That's yeah.
that's
That
when
makes
you
sense.
do it.
You have stuff in your hand. You're like, all right, hey. Um, I could see that, and it wasn't horrible. It was just more that like, okay, I don't. If you don't want to touch, we don't have to touch. That's fine. So like, it's not like I would. Try to shake my hand or whatever else, and they would just. And if they're like this, I'm like, nah, that's all right. No, that's cool. Whatever. We'll just like, I don't have to touch you at all. We don't have to. We don't have to do this now. I'm just gonna not
Yeah.
shake your hand. It's fine.
Yeah. I don't know. It's,
How did this turn into this conversation? How did we get here? How do we tie? How do we
it
tie
can
this
always
back? uh,
I guess I mean I the only tie back that I think I really have is the one that I already made, which is like how people um internalize stuff and they make it about themselves as as a way of projection.
yeah.
Um
So it doesn't apply. We just devolved into the
yeah,
the conversation of the last three
tangents.
years. It's just like, oh, man,
It's hard to not
it's the most
it
traumatizing thing in my entire life. That whole period for
right.
me.
It turns that and the what the media's reaction to Trump was, and that how that affected the general population, and then to stack COVID on top of it was it on yeah it was traumatizing. I lost a lot of faith in humanity.
I
um
was like, they're not gonna do this still, right? I thought that I wouldn't be the only one that was like me. But like there's so many people. I was like, they're not gonna stand for this, right? They're not. Sheep
they
everywhere. Everybody was going for it, and it's
yeah,
in hindsight, because hindsight is 2020, there are obviously a lot of things to say about how ridiculous the messes we were doing were. But at the time, is the best we knew at the time. I understand that argument,
I don't
but
even think that it was the best that we knew at the time. I think that it was
I know
like
the
this
6 foot thing
is
was pulled out of thin air. By the way, it was just made up. They made up a number.
the
There's
what.
no scientific data for the 6 feet, the 6 foot distance thing, social distancing 6 feet.
Yeah,
They pulled that number out of thin air. They made that up.
well I
That's
think
not a number. It's not a
the what
scientific
I
number about germ following.
my understanding is like if you're talking like the puzz, like, and the spittle that comes out of that, the furthest that it can travel is like less than 6 feet. So if you're with that,
it was all just they talked about there weren't any scientific studies for them to give that 6 foot. They just made up some arbitrary things.
yeah. Um,
I can't remember. I listened to a whole expose on it like a year and a half ago, but um oh school dance.
yeah. Oh, so I'm seeing if I'm just seeing it real quick. I don't have it pulled up on the screen share thing, but
Yeah.
there was this thing that I saw of it was these kids who went to a school dance during COVID. Um, it was like a prom. Um,
Oh, were they like all completely covered in like a huge suit?
no, it was almost worse. Um,
Darth
they
Vader.
it's this. Okay, let's check this out. Okay.
Back at a prom goes viral as people criticize the
What?
obnoxious levels of coronavirus restrictions. But not everything is as it seems.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. They're back to
From Rich TV Studios in
they're front
Hollywood,
to
we have
back.
Andy to tell you
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how much I
But they
care.
made it be that way.
dancing.
See, the guy
Let
wouldn't
me correct
mind if they
myself.
were the one.
Struggling to dance to ballroom music. Typical.
He's like, this is mental. So it's so crazy because they're
They're
back to
back to
back
back
with
dancing.
their arms linked and they're dancing back
That
to back. I mean, it's just
there's no way. There's no way. I would not have stood for that.
it's crazy. But I mean, people did it, because it's like this is what you have to do. Like when people make the case of saying like it's like they're just after control, like whoever they are just after control and power, like they just want they it's dominance, they just want
I
to show
I
that they can do this.
I can't see in there. Are they even having to wear masks at that point?
Yeah,
Or
they're
no?
wearing
Are there
masks.
masks on it too? I can't see.
Yeah, so you can see like I don't know if you can hear. You can see she has a mask on. She has a mask on. um she has a mask on that's like a
Dude,
black
I would have just
mask, it
hosted
looks
my
like.
own dance. I've been like, hey, all you people that want a real dance, we're gonna get together
Yeah,
at wherever and do it and just start creating that.
and that's where the cool kids are really.
Yeah, yeah. This do it's like and you can be like I mean, I wasn't a drinker, but I mean like, hey, there's gonna be alcohol there, whatever it is, like get
Yeah,
people to come. You can get people to come in some way. Uh,
it's
People of that age are more likely to rebel and not and think
but
this is
they
bull crap.
didn't, a lot of them didn't.
No,
What they ended up doing is they kind of embraced it, and I think that it really messed up a lot of kids. It I think it probably got a lot of kids to be more shut-ins, less social, more fearful, um, just in general. And I don't think that I think we're gonna end up seeing the effects of it in the future. But it's not a pretty. It's not. This whole thing was not a pretty situation. I mean,
so
that whole time was just absolutely
so
bizarre.
this whole thing has made me see the error of my ways in the sense of I've always been very, very happy with, you can say mediocrity, but it's more like I'm content. I don't need a lot of stuff. Like, I don't have this drive to go out and conquer the world and to get things, get bigger and bigger houses, get, mansions and do things. Like, I've never had that, but I see how ambition, so the concept of ambition is actually great because you need to be able to kind of like with the masks in an airplane with if you lose cabin pressure, secure yours before you secure somebody else's. Well, if you're able to have enough financial freedom that you are safe or you have all your
Mm-hmm.
needs taken care of, you are then free to help others out. Family, friends, hosting a dance that the crazy people won't let you host.
Yeah.
So like you can have your own barn you're inviting everybody over to. So it has made me regret some of my life past because I'm not, I mean, I have investments and things, but I'm not a well-off fella that is able to do that, in which when I could have been. I just didn't care about it that much.
Yeah.
I like the Goodwill Hunting type of approach, honestly. Like where like, hey, there's honest work in being a bricklayer. I'm a blue collar type of guy, right?
Yeah.
I could be doing computer science stuff. I could be a programmer. Whatever. I went to college. I like doing blue collar work. I don't know. I feel like it's honorable. I don't know. I like that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that it would be better to be more ambitious because of that type of thing. Because then you can take care of others, and you can do better to be able to lead in times like the
You
coronavirus
know,
when people are being
on a
crazy.
larger scale, like you can kind of see the benefits
Yeah,
of having that kind of financial freedom that allows you to do things that you didn't really think about before, I guess, right?
yeah. Anyhow, this devolved, and we can. It's
Yeah.
fine. I,
I've
I I mean, I don't mind the conversation. It's just, yeah, we kind of
you know,
meandered off.
I've enjoyed it. But I think we can call it. Um, yeah. Make sure you hit the like button. So make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification, so that you can get uh be aware when it first drops. All right. I butchered that. That's okay. All right. See you later, guys.
Later.